Have you ever said the words, "I'm fine," when you were anything but? When the weight of a failure, the sting of a loss, or the simple grinding pressure of a Tuesday felt like a stone in your chest? You said it. Maybe you even believed it, because for decades, for an entire generation of men, that phrase wasn't just a white lie, it was a creed. It was the unspoken, ironclad rule etched into the manual of manhood. Be the rock, be the provider, be reliable, be stoic, be present. But for God's sake, don't feel. And above all, never ever talk about it. Emotion was a liability, vulnerability was a design flaw. The goal was a seamless, impenetrable exterior, a fortress built brick by silent brick over a lifetime. That was the script, and countless men followed it, word for word, line for weary line. They built families on that silence. They forged careers in that furnace of repression. They became pillars of their communities, reliable, solid, admired for their unwavering strength. They locked every flicker of fear, every tremor of doubt, every surge of grief or loneliness or simple need into a vault deep inside, and they threw away the key. They built their entire lives, the homes, the marriages, the legacies, all while constructing an interior prison. But here is the quiet, seismic truth that is only now, in the second half of their lives, beginning to surface. That vault has a weight, a gravitational pull, and for men crossing the pivotal line of 50, that weight is becoming an unbearable anchor. What was once worn as a badge of honor, that stoic silence, is now being seen in the unforgiving light of hindsight for what it so often was. Not strength, but a slow and profound subtraction. A series of quiet amputations that have led to a deep, echoing, and surprisingly universal regret. This is not a story about fleeting sadness or a vague midlife malaise. This is about something far more specific, far more structural. It's about a reckoning, a deep-seated marrow-level regret that is actively rewriting the final chapters of modern masculinity. This is the story of what happens when silence isn't golden, when it's just empty, when the cost of being the unmovable object is that you never truly got to live. Let's walk through the three chambers of this regret. The first, and perhaps the most piercing, is etched into the very architecture of their personal histories. Look around the rooms they built. It's in the daughter, now a woman with her own children, who can describe her father's habits, his job, his politics, but cannot tell you whatever frightened him, what truly made him proud, what his dreams for her really were beyond success. She knew the provider, but never met the man. It's in the wife who shared a bed, a name, and decades of life with a polite and capable stranger, a man who solved problems but never shared them, who was a steadfast partner but never a truly intimate confidant. It's in the friendships that gradually faded into annual holiday cards because every conversation over beer was a careful dance around sports, politics, and work, never dipping below the waterline of anything real. These men are now sitting in beautifully furnished homes, surrounded by the evidence of a life diligently lived, and realizing with a cold clarity, they built houses, but not homes. They shared space, but not souls. They were present, but never truly there. And the most agonizing part? That emotional distance, that chasm carved over decades of "I'm fine," is now often uncrossable. The children are grown, their patterns set. The wife has built her own interior world to compensate. The friends have moved on. You cannot rebuild a bridge you never in all those years laid a single plank for. The second regret turns inward, and it is a haunting one. It is the regret for the self that never was. In the diligent work of suppressing the so-called negative emotions, fear, sadness, uncertainty, shame, they performed a tragic wholesale operation. They accidentally suppressed everything. They clamped down on the very circuitry of feeling. In staunching the flow of pain, they also dammed the streams of unbridled joy, of creative passion, of playful spontaneity, of a soul-deep sense of purpose that isn't tied to a job title. For many, life became a series of correct choices on a pre-drawn map. The safe job, the sensible car, the expected life path. They were following a script written by fathers, by culture, by a version of manhood that valued security over aliveness. Now, at 55 or 60 or 65, in the quiet that follows retirement or in the empty nest, they are finally asking the question that was never permitted. Who was I supposed to be? The silence that greets them is deafening. The hobbies feel hollow. The freedom feels frightening. The man they could have been, the artist, the adventurer, the more passionate partner, the more emotionally available father, feels like a ghost, a faint echo of a road not taken that now seems permanently closed. This is the regret of a life partially lived, of a song never sung, all in the name of being a real man. And then there is the third regret, the one that is written not in memory or lost potential, but in the very flesh and bone. This is the bill that the body presents, and it does not accept apologies. The science is unequivocal. Chronic emotional suppression is not a psychological metaphor. It is a physiological storm. That unprocessed stress, that perpetually stifled fight or flight response, translates into elevated cortisol, systemic inflammation, a weakened immune system, a heart working under constant silent strain. The mind that never truly unclenches contributes to anxiety, depression, and a profound insomnia of the soul. The stoic silence they wore as armor, the very thing they believed was making them strong and resilient, has, for so many, turned into a cage of chronic illness. The regret here is not philosophical, it is visceral. It's the man in the doctor's office hearing a diagnosis and thinking, with a fury of sorrow, "I was taught to tough it out. I was praised for swallowing it down. But no one ever told me it was poison. No one ever told me this silence could literally, physically kill me." But here is where this story pivots. This gathering regret, this painful inventory of loss, does not have to be the final verdict. In fact, for the man willing to listen to its painful message, it contains a key. This regret is not just about looking backward with sorrow, it is a stark, urgent signal about the time that remains. It points to a door that, against all odds, is still slightly ajar. Because while you cannot rewrite the past 50 years, you have absolute authorship over the next 10, 15, or 20. This is the terrifying and liberating shift. The realization that the strongest thing you can do now is to lay down the armor that has grown too heavy. This new strength has a different name. It is called selective vulnerability. It is not about an emotional dump or a loss of composure. It is a skill, learned late, but with profound effect. It is the courage of one honest, fumbling conversation. It's saying to an adult child, "I know I wasn't always easy to talk to. I'm trying to be better now." It's turning to a partner and saying, "That scared me," instead of "I'm fine." It's finding the simple, true language for the feeling, "I feel lonely. I am proud of you. I need help." It is prioritizing genuine connection over the desperate need to be perceived as right or strong. It is understanding in your bones that the bravest, most revolutionary act a man of your generation can perform at 55 or 65 is to finally, and with clear eyes, begin. To every man who sees his own reflection in this story, who feels the weight of that silent vault, who hears the echo of the ghost of who you might have been, know this. This regret does not have to be the end of your narrative. It can be the difficult, necessary prologue to your most authentic chapter. The goal is not to drown in the what-ifs, but to use their sharp ache as fuel, to ensure that 5 years from now, you are not sitting in a new chair of silence, compiling a fresh list of everything you were, once again, too late to say, or feel, or become. The culture of silence is a powerful force. It was built by generations, but it ends the moment one person decides, in a trembling voice, to speak. It ends with you. The next word is yours. This is Mendecoded, where we don't shame women, don't blame men, and don't avoid the truth. We decode it.